Bienvenue, benvenuti, and welcome to Expatriotical, the podcast for expats, travelers, and other adventurous souls. I'm Chandra Alley, and after living as an expat with my husband and 4 children in 2 different countries for almost 6 years, I've learned the arts of pivoting during pitfalls, traveling tastefully for less, and soaking in amazing new cultures without losing your own. Join me as we dive into the joys and challenges of travel and the expat life in every episode. Hey everyone, welcome back, or if it's your first time listening to Expatriotical, welcome. I'm super excited about this episode, and honestly, I don't know if it needs much of an intro other than to say it is almost my and my family's 6-year anniversary of being expats, and I wanted to mark the occasion by doing a different type of episode and by doing something special. And what I decided was that the best way to mark the occasion was to do an episode with the person that dragged me into this whole thing to begin with. Just kidding. He didn't drag me. I went willingly, but that person is my husband, Chris. So sit back, relax, and join us as we toast to this momentous, for us, occasion. Okay, everybody. So, as you might have guessed from reading the title of this episode, I have a surprise guest, and that surprise guest is my husband, Chris Alley. Hello, husband.
Hello, wife.
So the big deal, as you may have also gotten from reading the title, is that we are celebrating actually, let me start over. First of all, I have to say thank you for doing this, because other than your childhood dream of being an NFL football star, you have never really wanted to be in the spotlight. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
I forced him. Let's be honest, I forced him. Anyway, also I want to say that since this is supposed to be more of a conversation than an interview, please feel free to ask me any questions reciprocally or otherwise, anything that pops into your head, because
Good, because I don't even know what we're going to talk about.
Okay, great. So when this airs, it will be 3 days before the 6-year anniversary of you and myself and our 3 children and a half, because I was 7 months pregnant, arriving in Italy as expats. And how does that thought make you feel? Like it's been 6 years.
In a lot of ways, it feels like it's been an eternity, and in a lot of ways, it feels like yesterday.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, I forgot, because this was your idea. Cheers.
Santé.
I don't know if you could hear that, the little clinking of the glasses, but santé to that. Got us a little celebration wine. Got ourselves a little celebration wine. So, let's see, reading through my questions. This is supposed to be a conversation more so. I don't normally sound this unprofessional, I think, in my interview.
We left Dallas August 30th, right? Of 2018.
No, I don't have my phone here, but I have my computer. No, it wasn't. I was just looking on there. It got messed up, I think. And then if I go to...
I thought it was August 30th.
Okay, I'm scrolling right now to 2018.
And I remember getting on the airplane, and I was excited.
No, you're right. It was the 30th. Yes, correct.
For the flight. And it was the worst flight ever.
It was the worst flight.
Not for you.
It was it was not good for me either.
It was worse for me.
It was worse for you, in fairness.
And
would you like to say why it was bad?
Because Isaiah didn't have his own seat, and he'd never been on an airplane before, and he was trying to run all over the airplane. And
he was about 18 months old.
I
had
to take him to the bathroom to where he would finally go to sleep. He was like just
delirious.
Yeah.
And we had not stumbled across melatonin yet or anything like that. We didn't know all the tricks yet. And so basically we had 4 seats for 5 people, and but I had 7 months worth of a belly, so I didn't have as much room, and it was quite miserable for me to hold Isaiah, but he was running up and down the aisles, and it was just crazy.
And we landed in Frankfurt, and I was exhausted.
I was exhausted too, but I
we had to
think
connect
that you were more exhausted.
From Frankfurt to Milan, like Dallas, Frankfurt, Milan. And I couldn't even think straight when we got to Frankfurt. That's what I remember.
I remember thinking, I'm so glad that these signs are partially in English because in Frankfurt, because I remember thinking like my brain could not process trying to figure something else
my
out.
brain still couldn't process it. Like I couldn't
even in English.
I couldn't even see, like all I remember is German signs, and there was probably English underneath them, but like I didn't realize that in the majority of the time, because that's how I remember the time at the German airport, where like I was like, okay, I just follow this crowd of people and hopefully we're going to the same spot.
That's funny. I remember it a little differently, but so you definitely were more tired than I was. Okay. So also moving on from there, we made our connection. We got to Italy.
No, our connection was delayed.
No, but I'm just saying we made it to Italy.
Oh, yes. We did end up in Italy.
We made it to Italy. And, I've shared here on Expatriotical some of my initial thoughts before arriving in Italy, and then also what I thought shortly thereafter. And do you mind sharing some of your thoughts? So people that are listening, if you don't know my thoughts, you have to go back and listen to other episodes, but I want to hear what Chris's thoughts were pre-Italy and pre-going there, because you had never been there either, right?
Yeah, we landed in Malpensa.
Yeah.
And I remember getting off the airplane and thinking, this airport needs a facelift.
Yeah.
Which it does. And it's a very functional airport, and it has its nice parts about it. But when we got off the airplane, I was...
Were you underwhelmed?
I was underwhelmed with the caliber of the airport. And then it took us a while to get our rental car. And once we got our rental car, I was... and got out of the parking lot, which was its own adventure. I was underwhelmed with just getting on the highway, right? It's just like what in the United States we'd call an interstate, but it is the autostrada there. And I was underwhelmed with, I thought, okay, we're going to see like a bunch of Italian architecture and castles, and there was none of that. And it was very much an industrial area until we got into Milan. And then I remember getting into our hotel and being very impressed. So I went from underwhelmed to very impressed. And then just the kindness of the hotel staff it was next to none. They were amazing.
They were phenomenal. And just to add, like I've said this in a memoir that I've started writing, or I had started writing, it's on pause, and I think I've said this in some other podcast episodes, but we arrived, just like Chris said, it was just concrete walls
it was raining.
And it was raining-ish. So it was gray. I'm expecting blue skies, almost cloudless, sunshine, and all we see is gray everywhere. It's just gray walls, gray sky. And it's like, what on earth? Like, where do we just like transport our entire lives and our family to? But like you said, once we got into the center and got off of the autostrada and we started seeing that, and then exactly, we felt like, I feel like we felt like kings and queens when we walked or pulled up, I should say, to the hotel. And that was just the courtesy and the hospitality of that staff at the hotel, Sheraton Diana Majestic, just made it doable, because I think living for 10 weeks in a hotel would have been very challenging without just the wonderful people that
I can't say
there.
Enough good things about them.
Yeah. Okay. So also you had done some traveling internationally in your previous position with your company. And how would you compare taking that to taking the plunge and moving? Like, I mean,
it's not comparable.
Okay. So that's a good thing to say, because I was mentioning in last week's episode about how, 7 things I would have told I wish I'd known as a virgin expat. And it had to do with like the disappointment that when you tell people like, oh, it's really, it's beautiful, but it's really hard. And they look at you like you were insane. Like you can even say from a work aspect, it's not the same. It's just moving somewhere is not the same to working extended times. Cause with your prior position, you would go internationally, not as extended as in America, but you would stay places for extended periods of time where you're kind of living there for 3 weeks to a month to whatever. And still it's not the same in my personal opinion, but this is
no, it's not the same as when you live in your own home in a different country than your own. It's different than being on business travel where you're living temporarily in a hotel where 1 to 2 of your meals are probably provided for you by the hotel. And then if you're staying at a hotel chain, a worldwide hotel chain, Hilton, Marriott, or the IHG properties, basically what to expect, and they're all relatively similar in their own rights, so it doesn't really feel as foreign, and it feels more like a vacation on your work, and not that it's a vacation. When I go on work trips, I usually just work, but it's not comparable when you move to the country. There's a lot more. It takes a lot more energy just to live than it does otherwise, because everything that you do, even the most similar things to your home country, are still foreign. So there's always a little bit of difficulty, even if it's relatively the same thing. Filling up with gas, even if you filling up with gas, we've done a million times in the USA, and then when you come to another country, it takes a little bit of work to fill your car up with gas, and then depending on which filling station you're at, it may be completely different.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. In Italy, I only had to do it a few times. Like I think I could count on both hands because I didn't drive so much because you had the car, but it was like a whole process of like, okay, oh, this card didn't work. Or, okay, now we need to do this. Oh, wait, nope, we're going to have to go inside and pay. And then it's going to be refunded to our car. I mean, like, it's just, and even that happens now. Sometimes they wouldn't take
American cards. And sometimes they'll only take a debit card. And then sometimes they'll only take cash because you don't have any of the cards that'll work. And
one time it stole cash. I remember one time one of the machines
that was
stole,
the first time. I remember that.
It stole €20 from us. And we were like,
so mad.
Oh, we were so mad. Anyways. So yeah, it's a total, I like what you said, that it takes so much more energy just to live, just to have and even, when we go on vacation, don't usually I think we have done all inclusive once as a family when Lilia was 10 months old. That's the only time as a family that we've ever done all inclusive. So like we're always cooking or eating out, but a lot of times we do Airbnb, Vrbo, that kind of stuff. And so I'm usually making 1 to 2 meals so I'm still doing that, but it's still not the same. Even on vacation, there's a total different feeling than when you move. And
yeah. And well, in Europe, there's a lot of regional differences. Like if you go from Paris to Normandy, there's a regional difference.
Sure.
Paris to the Provence area, there's a regional difference.
Huge
so what's normal here may not be exactly normal there. So you get used to
your normal where you are. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So some more questions. And these are all Italy based because that was our first experience. What was your favorite thing about living in Italy?
It's hard to put one thing on there, but food wise, I learned what good pizza is.
Yeah. Okay.
And when it's funny, I think we've both talked about this, that when I moved there, I didn't necessarily like the pizza as much. I didn't know what the big deal about the Italian pizza was, but then I kept doing it and having more pizza and realized that their pizza is the best. And specifically Borgo's pizza is the best.
Yes. Again, listen to episode 1, the very first one, because that's the Shan Select Ristorante Borgo di Vione. And yeah, it was just
Pizza
so
di
good.
Avola con cipolle rosso.
Yeah, exactly. So
Is
it's like
the
a
best.
spicy pepperoni. They call it salami, but like a spicy pepperoni with red onions. So good. It's funny because I'm looking off into the window and I was just imagining the pizza as you were talking. It's so good. Okay. What was the hardest thing about living in Italy?
I don't know. There were a lot of difficulties, but I would say being displaced from your family is probably the easiest answer. Even though with all the technology we have, FaceTime and WhatsApp and everything we have now, it's still difficult not to be close, especially when you're like I think we are close to our families.
Yeah.
It's hard to be away from them, but I think I would rather live a little more adventurously, I guess, and rather than safely, I guess, for lack of any other word, like staying in the United States and passing up on this opportunity or opportunities. I think I would always look back and wonder what if, and that's probably the hardest thing that we did, but it's something that I didn't want to do. And I think we talked about that before accepting our assignments, is that we'd always wonder what would have happened if we accepted it.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree. Yes, definitely. It's funny because my hardest thing would probably be, actually, I think I have a couple. It would be the language was really hard, but now that I'm in France, it's much harder. French is much harder, in my personal opinion. And then also just getting used to how to navigate the medical system, I think was like, we had so many encounters with the medical system. And I feel like once we got it, okay, it was fine. But I just think the constant like immersion into needing to use it in different ways was, I mean, and we have insurance, but I'm just saying like the fact that you keep all of your medical records with you, which is like that's not in America, like you can call a clinic and they have your medical, if you've been there, they have your medical records. And so just those kind of things, would have been some of the hardest things. Okay.
Those were difficult, but I wouldn't say they were necessarily the hardest thing for that. I don't think they were the hardest thing for me, to get over, because eventually you kind of get used to it, but
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Those are just things that pop into my mind,
Yeah.
but I liked what you said, because it is hard to, again, that's also something I talked about in last week's episode, was like just that guilt of like, it's hard to keep in touch with family and you certainly don't get to see them. And we experienced COVID in Italy. So that really messed up a lot of travel plans that people had to come see us and we were really excited, and it just never happened.
It took like a couple years before we were able to go see our family again during
we went
the
2
COVID
years.
time.
Exactly.
So yeah, that part was the hardest, and maybe that's the most PTSD that I had. But it's been easier the last few years when the world has returned to normalcy.
Yeah, I agree. So, what was the hardest thing about leaving Italy for you?
Oh, the pizza.
The pizza.
No, I'm just kidding. But I do miss the pizza. I also miss the carbonara.
Yes.
So I do miss the food, but France has really good food too. So, but I miss the people. I miss the people that I worked with. there.
Yeah. Ciao, Omar, if you hear us.
Yeah. And the others, but yes, probably Omar the most.
Oh, sorry. You probably, you're talking about all the other people.
I'm talking about everybody, but yeah, Omar was my closest colleague, the only other person in my job that was doing the same job as me there. So, yeah, but
yeah, for me, definitely the people for sure is the hard. I mean, yes, the food, but the hardest thing is the.
But I think that's how it'll be everywhere that we go, and then everywhere that we leave, we'll make relationships, and then we'll have to leave those relationships. Like every year when school gets out, we always experience a few families that are leaving, and it always feels a little bit different the next year. Yeah. But I think that'll probably be my answer. If you ask me again in 4 or 5 years, and we've left Paris, that will probably be the same answer. Is that I'll miss the people.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that speaks to what an opportunity that you have if you have the opportunity, or if you make the opportunity. Some people just pursue it, right? They're like, I want to live abroad. Great, go, but the people are it's such a wonderful draw, and just getting to meet other people from other cultures that are doing life just like you, but maybe a little bit differently. And it kind of like opens your world a little bit. Katie Donnelly said that a lot about, in my interview with her. And I'm like, yeah, it really does. Like, it just kind of expands your mind a little bit in a really good and beautiful way. So, all right. Another Italy related question, and then we'll kind of shift gears. Where was the most memorable place for you that we ever visited in Italy? Now, when we lived in Italy, we visited other places, but this is kind of...
It's just a plug for Cinque Terre?
No, it's actually not. It's actually not. No, because anyways, is that what you're going to say? That's the most memorable?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, because Rome is your favorite city in Europe in general.
Yes, Rome is my favorite city in Europe in general. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Milan. I'm sorry, Paris, and all the other cities that are nice. But Rome, I like Rome better. But the only place I don't like going places and then going back. I like to go there once and experience it. I like to go there once and then experience it, and then go somewhere else and continue the adventure to explore all the parts of Europe and the world that we can. But Cinque Terre is one place that I always enjoy returning to. And no matter how much I hike the same trail, I just really enjoy it there.
That's okay. I promise it wasn't a plug. I promise. Because to me, that's just like my favorite place in the world. So memorable. I have so many memories there. And so I guess I wasn't thinking of it. I was more so trying to like edge you into wondering if Shaka in Sicily would have been.
Is there a place in Italy that I would like to have gotten more time to explore? Then I would say yes, and it would be the south of Italy. I feel like we didn't get to explore it very much, although I'm thankful that we got to go there. And yeah, Shaka was great, but I also would have liked to go to Puglia and the heel of the boot, and and you never got to go to Sardinia, and I only got to go there for a work trip. So yeah, I would have liked to pursue that more. There's a lot of...
Yeah, there was a lot definitely in the south of Italy that we saw a little bit, but there was so much more we could have seen. And I think we said when we were living there, like, and people would ask me, like, you could spend a whole lifetime, like, honestly, going to all these amazing, cute, quaint, ancient little towns and just like eating great food and meeting amazing people, and you could literally spend your whole life doing that. So it's kind of,
and that's the same thing about and maybe that's the same for anywhere in the world. If you care and take time to research and look into the history of your surrounding area, that's the same thing about France, is that you find these towns in France that I at least had never heard of before I came here, and I'm like, well, and you're just amazed by the houses that are still in existence from the 14 and 1500s. And
yeah, it's really, really, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just saying, yeah, I agree. It's really crazy. Okay. And finally, even though this is supposed to be more of a conversation, I'm still going to ask you the same, like, last 3 questions that I ask every guest. And that is, what has been your favorite thing about being an expat?
Adventure. It's really easy because it's a really easy answer for me, that I just enjoy the adventure and the excitement of the new places that we get to see. And when we move and relocate, it's always a new adventure, and it doesn't get maybe as stagnant as if we were continuing to live in our home in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Not that it was stagnant there. Anybody listening, we had wonderful friends.
And that's not what I mean.
But yeah, there's, like you said, there's constantly adventure, and it keeps you entertained for sure. And what is your most cherished memory so far that you can share, that you feel comfortable sharing during your expat adventure?
All of the bad stuff, the way at least my nostalgia works, is even the bad adventures turn into funny stories that I can end up laughing at in the future.
Share one.
No, that's not where I'm going.
Oh.
But so those, even the rough and difficult times, like the flight over with Isaiah not letting me sleep. That's a funny story now. I did not like it at the time. But the trip that because we couldn't go home during COVID, and our visas are basically our permits of stay in Italy had expired, and we weren't allowed to leave the country because we couldn't get back into Italy on tourist visas, because no tourists were allowed. We were able to go and explore Italy, basically with nobody else in the world except for the Italians. And that was probably my favorite trip, because we were in the Vatican with nobody.
Yeah.
And we're looking up at the Sistine Chapel with absolutely like maybe 5 other people in the whole chapel. And then we got to go down and really see Sicily and Palermo and spend time there, and just do a bunch of things that I don't know if we would have gotten to do if COVID wouldn't have happened, because we'd have been in the United States that summer.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
It wouldn't have been as enjoyable, because there would have been, a ton of people there.
Yeah, there was. And it's funny because when we were at the beach just outside of Palermo, there were still a lot of people. It was, because it was all the Italians were there, and it's a beautiful beach and all that sort of thing. So I cannot imagine what it's like when all the tourists are there too. Like it's just kind of crazy. But yeah, okay. So yeah, that's a very special memory. Like lots of that whole trip was really, really wonderful. Okay. Let's see. What is your most? Okay. So, last question. Is there anything else, any last thoughts, words of wisdom, or words of encouragement that you'd like to share with us today?
Wisdom. Okay.
Well, or a joke. You like to joke. You could tell us an expat joke. I don't know very many of those.
There's lots of expat jokes, but I don't know if they're appropriate.
Okay. You would know them.
I don't know. I don't really have any wisdom or anything, but like to sum up, I'm really grateful for the opportunity. There are hard times. It is more difficult just to go about your daily life and your daily routine when you're not in your home country. You don't speak the language. You don't know the customs. You don't know the laws. But like you'll get a speeding ticket for 1 kilometer over in certain places. That still
sticks in your craw, doesn't it?
Yeah. And 1 kilometer.
I love so
anyway, but I think it's still worth it. It's an adventure and a wonderful opportunity that we're very blessed to have.
Yes, I agree. We are very blessed. And I would say, okay, I guess I have another question for you that kind of spawns from it. Like if somebody has an opportunity and maybe I should just know the answer to it already, but maybe they do have like a great family support system where they're at, but they have this opportunity to like go out of country, whether it's indefinitely or for 2 or 3 or 4 years or something like that, and family or no family.
If it's 2 years, you can do that with your eyes closed. So yes, like if they're gonna say, yeah, we want to move you to wherever for 2 years, and then we'll move you back, and just say yes. I mean, to me that opportunity is a no-brainer. If they tell you, hey, we want to send you overseas, and you're probably not coming home, you may have to make some more decisions. Yeah. But we've said several times to each other that we'll watch shows and somebody will say, yeah, I had this opportunity to move to such and such country for a year, and we'll look at each other and say, a year? That's like the blink of an eye, because it takes a year just to get your feet under you half the time.
Yeah, I think for sure 6 months to feel like you're not drowning. And then, sorry, that makes it sound really negative, but I mean, and it wasn't quite so much like that when we moved here.
The second move is easier.
The second move was easier. I'm assuming that
even though we had less support.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that, that's funny. My computer just totally went to sleep. Anyway, I think that the second move is easier, or at least for us it was, and I'm sure it depends on location, but you've gotten your feet wet, right? You've gotten your feet wet. You kind of understand how things are going to go. And I think you're more capable because you've got that experience like tucked into your belt. So yeah, I would say the same thing, that like, unless it was someplace that you're just deathly afraid of, then do it, try it.
Yeah. Your network will be there when you go back, if it's only a couple years, but
yeah.
Maybe something else to consider if it's a lifetime.
Yeah, of course. Then you're kind of, I mean, if it's a lifetime, especially in the same place, then you're almost like immigrating, which is another conversation that I hope to find somebody to talk to about that.
I think you could spin any experience into a positive, on like a resume, and you can there's always a way back home.
Oh, of course. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Well, happy 6-year anniversary. Thanks, babe. Santé. Love you. Thank you for doing this. And we appreciate all of the wisdom and the jokes. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, guys, now it's time to dive into this episode's Shan Select. I've actually been saving this one for a while because I wanted it to be featured in an episode that centered around Italy. And I am super happy to announce that this Shan Select is accessible to everyone. It's the historical fiction novel Beneath a Scarlet Sky by Mark Sullivan. As the book cover states, the tale is based on the true story of a forgotten hero. It is the triumphant, epic tale of one young man's incredible courage and resilience during one of history's darkest hours. Sullivan dedicates the book to the 8,000 Italian Jews who could not be saved, the millions taken slave by the Nazi war machine, and the countless who did not make it home, and also to a man named Robert Dillendorf, who heard the tale first and rescued Sullivan. Not to give too much away, but by reading the preface, it really does sound like uncovering the story of Pino Lela, the main character's life really did bring the author out of the depths of despair. But beyond the interweaving of Sullivan's personal life with his main character is the story of this amazing young man that walked the same streets I did when we were living in Milan only 75 years earlier. Being an absolute history nut, reading about the streets I'd walked on so many times, the grand and gorgeous Duomo Cathedral I loved, and even the Hotel Diana Majestic, which had been our home in Italy for the first 10 weeks, made the book seem even more real and alive to me, but also gave those places that I had been to so much more depth and meaning. The story is captivating, the drama intense, and the love story is real. A must read, if I do say so myself, especially for World War II buffs, people who enjoy historical fiction, or anyone planning to visit Milan. I told a group of friends about it, and one of them said it was her absolute favorite book. And I myself, so I could have more access to it and read it more quickly, as I am a slow reader, purchased the Kindle version so that I could take that with me when I left the house, and kept the paperback copy, which I had bought first, on my nightstand. It was that good. I will be sure to include a link to the author's website so you can learn more. And as always, I am not an affiliate, just a huge fan. And for our quote of the day, I feel like it is very appropriate to have a quote from the main character, the man himself, Pino Lela, as quoted in the afterword or aftermath part of the book. After the perils he went through, the things he saw, and the loss he suffered during World War II, Signore Lela says, "I still believe that if we are lucky enough to be alive, we must give thanks for the miracle of every moment of every day, no matter how flawed." Not that being an expat is like living through a war. It certainly is not, but there can be dark days of the soul for sure, and being thankful for every moment that we are alive can help us get through those hard times. I know that from personal experience after having had a stroke in the middle of a lockdown during COVID. To find out more about that, you can listen to episode 10, Hospitalizations Chandra Edition, to find out more. All right, everyone, that is it for today's episode. I hope that you have enjoyed this special celebratory episode, and I hope that if you are an expat and are listening to this, I hope that you mark your expativersary, I just made that up, by celebrating it in some way too, because it is quite the accomplishment to live outside of your country of origin, and making it year after year is definitely a reason to celebrate. Before I sign off, I want to put in a plug that if you haven't yet found me on Instagram, please head there and follow me to get reminders and also to see the different expatriate and travel musings I post there, as well as if I do any Instagram live events, which I am thinking of doing soon. The handle there is @Expatriotical. That's EXPATRIOTICAL. And I will, of course, put the link in the show notes. Thanks, guys, and I wish you a great rest of your week. I'll meet you back here again next week, and until then, this is Chandra Alley reminding you to live and travel in the know with Expatriotical.